I want you to imagine you're on a treadmill. You're sprinting, your heart's pounding, your lungs are burning, and you're giving it 110%. You feel like you're flying. But when you look to your left, you realize the treadmill isn't even plugged in. You've moved exactly 0 inches. This is the founder's lie. It's the belief that being exhausted is the same thing as being effective. We've been conditioned to think that a 14-hour workday is a badge of honor, but in reality, it's usually just a sign that you don't know what actually matters. In 2026, the world is louder than it has ever been. There are 1,000 guru tactics, a million software tools, and an infinite number of distractions screaming for your attention. Most founders are drowning in the 80%. The noise, the minor tasks, the busy work that keeps the lights on but never actually moves the needle. Today, I'm going to show you how to find the 20%, the small, vital fraction of your actions that produce almost all of your results. If you can identify and protect that 20%, you stop being a laborer in your business and you start being the architect of a machine. This isn't just a productivity tip, it's the physics of growth. The 80-20 rule, or the Pareto Principle, is a law of nature. It's the observation that in almost any system, 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes. In your business, this is a brutal reality. 80% of your revenue probably comes from 20% of your clients. 80% of your stress probably comes from 20% of your problems. And 80% of your growth comes from 20% of your decisions. Most people hear this and they nod their heads, but they don't actually do anything about it. They keep treating every email, every meeting, and every client like they have equal weight. They're treating a wildfire and a candle with the same amount of water. To scale without breaking yourself, you have to become a surgical editor of your own life. You have to be willing to ignore the good so you can obsess over the great. I remember talking to a founder named Sarah who ran a boutique digital marketing agency. When I met her, she was on the verge of a breakdown. She had 85 active clients. Her Slack was a war zone. She was working 70 hours a week and her profit margins were actually shrinking. We sat down and did a Pareto audit. We looked at the numbers and realized that just 6 of her clients out of 85 accounted for 70% of her total profit. The other 79 clients were responsible for 90% of her support tickets and almost all of her team's turnover. She was spending her best energy trying to please people who weren't even paying for the electricity in her office. She was terrified, but she fired 40 of her smallest, most difficult clients in a single month. Her team thought she was crazy, but within 90 days, her profit went up, her stress went down, and she finally had the time to actually lead. She stopped being a service provider and started being a business owner. The growth didn't come from adding more, it came from subtracting the noise. The second area where 80-20 is vital is your product or offer. Most founders suffer from feature creep. They think that to stay competitive, they need to keep adding. More options, more tiers, more bells and whistles, but complexity is the silent killer of scale. I worked with a high-end coffee equipment company that had over 100 different items in their catalog. They were overwhelmed with inventory, shipping logistics, and customer confusion. When we looked at the data, 3 items, just 3, drove 85% of their brand recognition and 80% of their sales. The other 97 items were just clutter that made the warehouse expensive and the website hard to navigate. By cutting the bottom 50% of their catalog, they didn't lose customers, they gained clarity. They could focus all their marketing on the 3 things that actually worked. They turned their business from a cluttered thrift shop into a precision-engineered brand. If you're listening to this and you feel that familiar knot in your stomach, the one that tells you you're currently buried under a mountain of those clutter tasks, we need to fix that. Most founders are too busy working in the chaos to ever build the machine. If you want to start fixing your business today and actually see where your 80% is leaking, you can download our free checklist. It takes about 15 minutes to go through, and it's designed to help you reclaim 10 or more hours of your week by identifying the low-value tasks you need to stop doing immediately. You can find the link in the description below. It's the first step towards moving from the treadmill into the architect's office. The third law of 80-20 applies to your marketing. We're told we need to be everywhere. You're told you need to be on TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and running meta ads all at once. That is a recipe for mediocrity. For almost every business I've ever seen, there is one master channel that drives 80% of the high-quality leads. For some, it's a specific referral network. For others, it's a very particular type of long-form video. I knew a SaaS founder who was spending $5,000 a month on Google Ads and another $5,000 on a PR agency. He was getting traffic, but no one was buying. We looked at his history and realized that almost all of his best customers came from a single podcast appearance he did 2 years ago. He was ignoring his 20% to chase the omni-channel dream. He stopped the ads, stopped the PR, and focused entirely on becoming a guest on the top 10 podcasts in his niche. His customer acquisition cost dropped by 60% and his lead quality skyrocketed. You don't need to be everywhere, you just need to be where the signal is strongest. The fourth area is your team. This is the hardest one to swallow, but in almost any organization, 20% of the people are responsible for 80% of the value. These are your A players. They don't just do their jobs, they solve problems before you even know they exist. Most founders spend 80% of their management time trying to fix the bottom 20%, the people who are constantly making mistakes or creating drama. You're literally spending your most valuable asset, your attention, on your least valuable people. The effective founder flips this. They spend their time empowering, rewarding, and listening to their top 20%. They realize that losing one A player is more expensive than losing 5 C players. If you want to scale, you have to protect your stars and be willing to let go of the people who are just taking up space. You aren't running a daycare, you're building a championship team. The fifth area is the negative 80-20 or your systemic leaks. Most businesses have 1 or 2 recurring problems that cause 80% of their operational drag. It might be a broken onboarding process that requires 3 follow-up calls. It might be a software bug that everyone has just learned to live with. These small frictions aggregate into a massive weight. I call these energy vampires. A founder I knew was spending 2 hours every Monday manually reconciling his bank accounts because his software didn't talk to his bank. He'd been doing it for 3 years. That's 300 hours of a CEO's life spent doing $20 an hour work. He finally spent $500 on a custom integration that automated it. That $500 didn't just buy him a tool, it bought him 10 days of his life back every year. You have to find the 1 or 2 systemic leaks that are draining your team's energy and fix them at the root. Stop patching the hull and start building a better boat. The final law of 80-20 is about your own mindset. Most of your thinking time is spent on the how. How do we fix this email? How do we run this meeting? But the 20% of thinking that actually changes your life is the who and the why. Who can I hire to own this entire department? Why are we doing this project in the first place? If you can shift your brain from being a tactical responder to a strategic designer, you win. You have to realize that your value to the company is not your ability to do things. Your value is your ability to decide which things are worth doing. If you are the hardest working person in your company, you are the biggest bottleneck. The 80-20 of leadership is about being the person who points to the right mountain, not the person who carries the most rocks. Success in 2026 isn't about working harder. The world is full of people working hard who are still broke and stressed. Success is the courage to be unbalanced. It's about looking at your list of 10 things and having the discipline to ignore the bottom 8 so you can give the top 2 everything you've got. It's about realizing that done is better than perfect, but essential is better than done. You have to become a minimalist of action so you can become a maximalist of results. The 80-20 rule isn't just a mathematical observation, it's a commitment to your own potential. It's a promise that you won't let your life be stolen by the trivial. Are you ready for the complete self-running business system? We've spent years building the best business course on the market for people who are ready to stop hustling and start building. We don't just give you theories, we show you the exact architecture we use to build businesses that run entirely without us. We show you how to find your 20%, how to automate your 80%, and how to reclaim your freedom. You can sign up 100% free, no credit card required, and get instant access to the full course intro right now. The link is in the description, and it's also the very next video on your screen. The path to 80-20 isn't a one-time event. It's a daily practice. It's the constant question, is this the most important thing I could be doing right now? If the answer is no, stop doing it. The treadmill is only useful if it's taking you somewhere. It's time to plug in the machine and start moving towards the life you actually wanted to build. And I'll see you in the course.